Hello, mamas. Welcome back to another amazing episode of the Mama Work It podcast. I am so glad you're here. If you are new, my name is Marissa Lonick. I am the host and the founder of Mama Work It, where we support women in the juggle of work life, mom life, wife life, fill in the blank life. Today's guest is Shamayne Olivia Kotfas. Shamayne's transformational journey started with a simple question: who am I? Her decades-long quest to reclaim her identity led to profound insights and realizations that are the foundation of her business, Shoes That Fit Her Soul, LLC. Drawing from her vast corporate career and her personal experiences with generational trauma, Shamayne's authentic message guides women on a path towards personal and professional growth by fostering a renewed sense of passion, purpose, and confidence. Shamayne, I know this topic can feel heavy. We're talking about loss, we're talking about uncertainty, but I just know you're the right person to be here to guide us through it. So thank you so much for being here.
Well, thank you, Marissa, for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Good. Well, I always love to ask first and foremost, can you tell us a little bit about your journey as a working mom and just in general when it comes to this topic?
Sure. My journey goes back quite a while. I have been through many, curves, turns, ups and downs, and all these things. But the thing I wanted to share with you today, I am a mom, and um, I'm newly retired. I retired from corporate at the beginning of this year, and so I was very excited to be able to have a second chance to become work on my passions as an author, creator, and a facilitator. So I'm working on my first book right now, and I have a passion for bringing out the best in people, to know their incredible worth and value, just to know who they truly are. And as a mom, I became a mom 38 years ago. Today's my daughter's birthday. And I also have two sons that are 34 and 32. In addition, I have three grandchildren. So I consider myself a mom on several different levels. My journey as a mom and a working mom has been interesting and unpredictable. As you mentioned, we'll talk about loss and things like that. But I would say that over this time and everything I've experienced, you could say I've earned 3 master's degrees or PhDs by raising 3 completely different children. And they have truly taught me a wealth of knowledge that I would not have otherwise gained. And the grandkids are the reward for raising their parents. Just a quick summary of my past and the journey that got me on the self-discovery journey was I like to break my journey down into 3 or 4 stages. I'm actually in the last stage right now. But my stages were survival, existing, transformation, and thriving. And when we can break our journey down in those type segments based on your own personal journey, kind of helps you as you move forward and grow and become the person that you want to become. My survival was in childhood and adolescence. Basically, I'll just say that I was the oldest of 4 children, and our parents were very emotionally immature and were not able to meet our needs. So I became the caretaker in a very dysfunctional family system. The existing ages and stage was my 20s and 30s. That's when I was married and had my children and career, and being a mom came naturally to me, though. And it was something I always knew I wanted to be. Michael and I married very early in our journeys, and we had our 3 kids almost immediately. So it was not until my oldest 2 were in school, elementary school, that I went back to work. My transformation stage was in my 40s and 50s. It became the hardest chapter in my life. After 20 years together with Michael, he and I separated, and I was 40 and the kids were in high school and middle school. But we had a good relationship. The separation and divorce were amicable, and we both wanted to co-parent. So we did that while the kids lived with me. But a week before our divorce was final, I was laid off from my job. And over the next 4 years, I could only find part-time jobs or temporary work because the job market was down. I lost my house, my car, and a lot of weight due to the stress. But as time went on, I thought I would never thought I could find a job, but then I did find a job 4 years later when I interviewed for a major health insurance company. And at last, I felt like things were going up for me. We were going to have stability and benefits and all the things that come with a stable job. And when I got the news on June 27th, 2008, I was 45 years old. The next morning, I woke up and Michael had been killed in an accident. He was a cyclist. He rode his bike regularly, and he was hit by a car and died instantly. So that was another huge change for me. And just when I felt like things were going up, I was hit with another tragedy. So that really began my journey of self-discovery, and it was the catalyst that got me to really dig deep and figure out what were the things that had held me back. So I spent the next 15 years on that self-discovery journey. And now I'm in my 60s and thriving, and I've rediscovered who I am with a new purpose and passion. And I'm still learning about myself, but it's much easier now.
Yeah. Thank you so much for opening up and sharing that. You've told me that story before, and each time you tell me, I still get chills and I still have such a visceral reaction to it, because loss is such a big deal. And that's a very big loss that you experience. But we experience loss in so many different ways and shapes and forms throughout life. And I know you have as well. So I'm curious, what do you feel like is the common denominator, like the secret formula in how you were able to cope and recover in each of those types of situations?
I thank you for asking that, because it is loss does occur in different ways for different people. It can be in relationships, it can be a job, it can be your house, it can be a tragedy like Michael being suddenly killed, or a disease or something that someone is contending with. It happens all the time. For me, what I learned as I went by is that I actually had to look back and see what I was doing. I think as a mom, we just get the job done. And I had to get up and show up. And so by doing that, I was taking one step at a time, just one step forward. There are many examples throughout this journey that I can remember. And one in particular was um, I, I had trouble with bills, and that's why I lost the house and the car the first time that we went through a big loss. Um, and so I would get overwhelmed with talking to bill collectors or talking to the bank and I was embarrassed. I was ashamed that I couldn't keep up. But when I didn't have a job, I didn't have a paycheck. So sometimes I just wanted to cover myself up in bed. I just want to put the covers over my head and just forget the rest of the world. But I couldn't. I had 3 kids and I needed to get up, get it done. And so I faced my fears and I showed up as the best I could each day. And maybe just one call about an overdue bill or something. And each time it got easier. And I'm not saying I was always at my best, but I would do my best, the best that I could on that day. And also it helped that the people I spoke to were so very kind to me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I've seen this visualization before about how your best can look different on different days. Like
Right.
sometimes your best is really, checking everything on your list and then some, and really like just thriving in all the parts of your life. And you feel like you gave your best and you really succeeded that day. And other days, your best is simply making that one phone call, and that's the best you could do. And that's okay.
Exactly. Just take one step. One step. One step might just be get out of bed. Another
Mhm.
step might just be get out of bed, then brush your teeth. You know, it's taking it slowly at your pace, but just constantly taking that one step forward.
Yeah. So, knowing that loss and uncertainty, these are things that can find us no matter what, right?
Hmm.
How do you feel is the best way to prepare for these situations that are inevitable without necessarily like feeling pessimistic or anticipating these, negative things to happen to us?
Yeah, right. And that's a big deal because usually what we're fearing is not knowing what's going to happen, and that's
Hmm.
what the uncertainty is. And I remember, I will tell myself, I will talk to myself, especially back then. I remember that I am resilient, and that the fear is just about not knowing what's going to happen. And I remember that each time I faced fear and uncertainty, I made it through. So, remind yourself you've been through other challenges before, other struggles before, and remember how you made it through. Not necessarily what you might have had to do, but just you did make it through. And just remember, what are some of the ways that you normally do those things? I tend to make lists and things like that. And finally, I would remember that even though it was hard, I still made it and I found something good that came from it. So when I'm faced with a challenge now, um, I try to focus on what good might come from it. I remember during the pandemic, I mean, we were so afraid during that time. All of us were. It was like a collective grief. We all were worried. We all didn't know what was going to happen. Most of us, for sure, and a lot of tragedy happened during that time. And it helped me to remember some of these other things I had been through and how I handled them. And so I created a routine for myself. I started taking walks in the morning, and then I would do some writing in the afternoon, and helping me just focus on the things that I could do and not worry about the things that I had no control over.
That's such great advice. And I was thinking of that time period even before you mentioned it because that was such an uncertain time for people. And it did feel really challenging, especially if you were a parent of young children during that
Yeah.
period.
And we had, even though my children are grown now, my grandchildren, one of them ended up being here when everything shut down. Um, and then we had that winter storm. There was a winter storm that happened, and he happened to be here. So there were many times where we had him and we're doing the homeschooling with him. Yeah, it was a challenging time for everybody involved.
Absolutely. Yeah, you can definitely relate to those homeschool moments
Yes.
for sure. Yeah. So you've had to start over before more than once. What were like the really tangible things you did to make it happen? You mentioned that you made lists, you got routines going. What else can someone who maybe finds themselves in a situation where they need to take some action to start over, like what are some tangible action steps they can take?
Well, yeah, I did. I mentioned I am a list maker. I'm also a planner. I like to plan. Planning helps me feel safe. It makes me feel like, okay, there's an objective here. I'm making that list. I'm going to set some goals. Um, and, it's important to step back and just kind of process the situation, not necessarily jump right into it, but first process the situation and try to focus on the things that you can do, like make phone calls to a support system. Get who are your people, who are the people you can talk to, and help you work through a plan or your feelings, your emotions, um, and then focus on the things you can do easily. What are some things that you can do right away that are going to be simple and attainable? And then have your list include the things that you plan to do when it gets a little bit easier, when you start making some forward motion, forward progress with whatever is next. An example of, I of course I started over when Michael died, and I got myself into some support groups that dealt with grief. I also started volunteering. I did some volunteering to take my mind off of things. And I also cried a lot. I set aside time in the morning on my way to work, on my commute. I'd get the kids ready. I had one son living at home at that time. So Daniel still was in school, and I would take him to school and get him set for the day. And on my commute to work, which is about 45 minutes to an hour, I'd put on a song and just cry. And it by the time I got to work, I had released a lot of that emotion and gotten myself ready for the rest of the day. But also, one other thing I'll mention is that when I decided to write a book, my book will be out in the spring. And I started on this book, gosh, I feel like I started on it 10 years ago because it came from my journaling. But when I absolutely knew that that's what I was going to do with it, I gave myself 5 years. I didn't say I want this book done in a year or 6 months, because I know me. I know that I don't work well under pressure. And other people may and want to set a short timeline, but I gave myself 5 years. And it was not even to get the book published. It was I'll have something tangible to offer to people, and I want to have a curriculum and a book, and I want to offer that. And it's amazing, Marissa, that I was sitting at the dinner table with my husband, and I had all the structure of what I was going to offer to people. It just had to be put into pretty content. And I realized that day was 5 years from when I had said I wanted to have it done in 5 years.
Wow. Wow. It just all came to you in that moment.
It came together. And one last thing I'll say is that letting go of things that we can't control. I mentioned that before. It lightens your load so much if you can practice just letting go of the things that you can't control, because that depletes you of energy and time, and focus on your steps, the next steps instead. You know, the way they say, it is what it is sometimes.
That's great advice. I want to go back to the crying element. I think that
Sure.
a lot of times we are taught, or we have this belief that crying feels very vulnerable. It feels very weak, even. People perceive it as weakness. We have to pull it together. We have to keep it together, whether that be in a professional environment, whether that be in front of kids, whether that be just in front of anyone generally, even
Right.
within ourselves. But that processing step is so underrated and such a necessary component when it comes to loss, when it comes to feeling really uncertain and anxious and being in a place like that. And
I
I
agree.
heard once that emotion, which to me, crying is very much the output of an emotion, is really energy in motion.
Oh,
And if
yeah.
the energy is stuck inside of you and you're not able to release it somehow, right? And you're not able to
Right.
move it, it's going to start to block things for you.
Crying for me it's an experience. I don't want to get too deep into that, but I have found it's cleansing. And there are times when I just feel that overwhelming emotion. We all know what that feels when we're about to have a cry, or we need to cry. Maybe it's in a movie or in a discussion with someone, or you're touched by something you see, and you feel that overwhelming uh, rush in your body that is saying, okay, I need to cry now. And a lot of times we'll hold it back. And I understand sometimes that's necessary. You may be in the middle of a meeting somewhere, or you're at a very public place, and it feels strange to you to just release that crying right then. I have done my best to, like at work, when that overwhelming feeling would come, I would go to a private room, shut the door, and just cry. And I I feel like when you really you know what a hard cry is, right? I mean,
Oh,
you're just
yes.
sobbing and you're putting your whole body into it. It is a wonderful experience if you remember what it feels like after that cry. It's amazing how your body just feels lighter and your mood is shifted. And so I take cues from that emotion, from that feeling. It's a feeling, a
Hmm.
physical feeling. And if I'm going to cry, my husband's used to it now, and I can look at him and just walk up and, you know, fall into his arms and just start crying. And he'll just, all he has to do is just stand there and hold me. Um, but other times I'm by myself and I go in my closet or the bathroom or something and just cry.
Yeah. It's like a tough workout. Like, it's not going to feel good in the moment, but afterwards, you're going to feel like $1,000,000.
Right. Oh, I feel ugly in the moment. I'm just like
They
ugly
don't call it an
crying.
ugly cry for nothing.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. No, but it is such a great release. And
Yeah.
your body, I know it you don't want to hold those things in your body because those things will start to come out in other physical ways, I believe. Illness
Absolutely.
or, you know, sore knee. I don't know. But when you hold things like that in your body, it's not healthy. So it's best if you can learn and accept that crying is good for you.
Yeah. When in doubt, cry it out. I like it.
That's good.
All right. Well, you have a program. It's called Shoes That Fit Her Soul, soul spelled Soul. Tell us briefly how you came up with the name and why do you think shoes have to do with our inner soul and calling?
Thanks for asking this question because um, I'm so passionate about this, and I love that it came to me as shoes. And because who doesn't love shoes? I love shoes. I love all kinds of shoes. We all have different outlook on shoes, and but we all have our style. We all know what we like in a shoe: comfort, flexibility, or are they practical, are they for work, are they for going out. It is also the name of my book, and they both detail my journey of finding my true self and becoming the woman that I was meant to be after all these years. And I had always wished that I had someone to teach me the steps I should take. In other words, I had plenty of mentors and plenty of guides and plenty of people that influenced my life. But I thought, wouldn't it be great if there was some way to put that into a neat little package? And so that became my mission. I decided that is what I wanted to come up with. I wanted to take my experiences and put them into a neat little package. But it was hard. It was really hard. I couldn't sort it out in my head. I couldn't figure out, what did I learn? What did I pick up? What helped me? After writing the journal and trying to start a book and everything, I wanted to work on the program. And I wanted to call it a workshop, and I wanted to teach women how to do this themselves. I wasn't going to tell them the direct answers. I was going to give them suggestions and just kind of guide them through this based on my own experiences. So as things got heavy, I mean, I was still working. I was still involved in my children's lives and the grandchildren and everything. It became very heavy for me, and I took a break with my husband, Craig. I remarried um, a few years after Michael passed, and I have a wonderful husband who is the rock of my existence from day to day. But we went on a road trip, and when we got back, we were so refreshed, so recharged, and ready for to get back to work and projects and things. And a week later, I had a dream, and I won't go into the whole dream, but basically, the dream was just my creativity releasing. And at the time, I didn't understand that, but it came to me afterwards. So the dream was just about me going for a walk from or with my coworker who we walked all the time in our office. And in the dream, she asked me to go for a walk. And after walking around the building to go downstairs to go outside to do the walk, I recognized and looked down that I wasn't wearing my shoes. I just had on my socks. And so turned around to go back inside to get my shoes. And I woke up from the dream. And as I laid there in bed thinking about, I was like, that was so vivid. The dream went on for a long time. And I saw many people I knew, but it didn't make much sense to me. So I went ahead and got up because I couldn't get back to sleep. And I was in the bathroom and I was washing my face. And Marissa, it was like this warmth. It just washed over me. And I felt warm and inside. And I heard the words, "You're going to teach women to find their shoes for their journey." And I just burst into tears, as I normally would do. And but I knew at that moment, it wasn't just a calling or a purpose. I felt like this was my mission. And the shoe began to break down into pieces and took the components of the shoe. And each of those shoe components represent the steps I took to recover my own identity. The elements of the shoe are the same elements we need to connect with our soul. And without going into all the details, they include connection with self, healing, our support systems, trusting your steps, finding your voice, setting goals, a sense of belonging, and leaving your footprint for your loved ones. And that's what I got from that dream. And that's what started the program, Shoes That Fit Her Soul.
I love that. Thank you so much for sharing. And I love that that came to you in a dream. I feel like that is just often our sleep, our subconscious state during that time is such an open, airy, like pure space to receive messages. So I love that that's
Yes,
where that started for you.
I have many dreams and I pay attention to all of them.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, good. Before we wrap up today's episode, we always love on this show to do a little bit of a lightning round where we like to ask you some just very random, personal, fun questions so our listeners can get to know you a little bit better. Are you ready?
Sure, I'll do my
Okay.
best.
All right, good. Here we go. Let's see. Do you have a go-to like get it done song that really motivates you?
I would have to say September by Earth, Wind, and Fire. And that's going to show my age a little bit, I guess. But it's also a very personal thing between my husband and I. We love to dance at weddings, and that's the one song that will get us both on the dance floor. And even our license plate on our car says "Body Ya," which is the chorus in the song. If y'all listen to September, it says "Body Ya." So, and we also
Yeah.
got married on the 21st night of September.
Oh, that is awesome. I love that. Okay.
Yeah, it means something.
It means something for sure. All right. Do you have a guilty pleasure TV show that you love?
um, I don't have one. I like to watch crime TV on ID, and I also like the home renovation shows to get ideas.
Mm-hmm.
But crime TV, my husband's always like, "What are you going to do? You trying to figure out how to murder me or something?" And I, the reason I like them is because I like the way they solve them. It's not so much about the crime itself, but how the detectives and all the people get the crime solved. I
Mm-hmm.
like
Yeah.
seeing how
Creative
that happens.
problem solving. Yeah,
Yes.
absolutely. Mm-hmm. Okay. What is your cocktail of choice?
Oh, good one because I don't drink beer or wine. Um, I like. I've always liked gin and tonic. And in the summer, I like the cucumber tonic that they have now. And if you give me another option in the winter, I like drinking the toasted almond martini or a vanilla Russian. I like the
Ooh,
seasonal drinks too.
yeah. Yeah, I love that. All right, Shamayne, before we say our goodbyes, can you tell our listeners where they can find out more about you and your program?
Sure. My website is under construction, but it is there. I have a splash page and it's shoesthatfithersoul.com. I'm also on Instagram and I'm on Facebook. You can find me both places at Shoes That Fit Her Soul.
Amazing. And
And I
we'll
have a
link.
Facebook group too.
Great. And we will link all of that in our show notes so you can definitely stay in touch with Shamayne. Thank you so much for being here, for sharing more about yourself and this topic. We really appreciate it.
Thank you. I enjoyed it.